I'm Phil Town, and I'm sitting up here in Bozeman, Montana. I'm up visiting my grandkids. Had a wonderful day at Big Sky today. And I started thinking that 2026 is going to be a really, really telling year in the world of investing. I think it's a watershed year. We have indexes roaring to like astonishing all-time highs. There's this kind of euphoria around AI stocks that are a huge part of the run-up that's happened in the last couple of years in the S&P 500. And man, they're like 35% of the S&P 500 now. And meanwhile, though, we're getting this plethora of macroeconomic forces that are trying to destabilize markets at a time when the Schiller PE is sitting at over 40. And you guys, we've talked about that here before. It's always crashed when it's been at this level. So get ready. So I thought in this video, I want to talk through 5 big mistakes that will really catch investors out this year. And I thought, okay, well, how can you ensure your portfolio doesn't suffer because of these mistakes? And let's talk about that. The first big trap I'm seeing is investors are getting way too caught up in the macro. Like one of the biggest traps investors get into in 2026, I think, is getting completely consumed by the macroeconomic picture, because everywhere you look, there's another headline. Jerome Powell's out as the Fed chairman, and inflation data is going, oh, it's going up. Oh, no, it's going down. Job numbers look strong one month, and then they find out that it was all phony the next month. Interest rates, I don't know if they're going to cut them or not. Nobody knows. National debt's exploding. We know that in the US. And I think the temptation is just to sit there and go like, I'll take up investing on my own when things get clearer. But here's the problem with that. Things are never clear. Think about it. Warren Buffett has had this exemplary investing life, and he's lived through wars and oil crises and, double-digit inflation, recessions, big bubbles, crashes, pandemics. And yet, he's been able to compound money at 20% a year or more. He's not predicting the macro. He's not timing the Fed, He said once if the Fed chairman called him up and told him what interest rates are going to be, it wouldn't change a thing he's doing. But instead, he's focusing relentlessly on individual businesses. And he has said so many times that if you need to predict interest rates or GDP or inflation to be a successful investor, you're really in the wrong game. The truth is, macro analysis might make you feel informed. You got stuff to talk about at a party, but it's rarely conducive to making great investments. There's a few great macro investors out there. Ray Dalio's one of them, but he's retired, and there's very few others, because you got to be obsessed with it. And obsessing over the macro, often for most people, it does the exact opposite, because it scares the crud out of people and it keeps them from buying great businesses when they're really attractively priced, because they're always seeing the sky is falling. So this idea of macro just kind of encourages paralysis by analysis. Or worse, it pushes investors into an emotional decision that's driven by headlines rather than fundamentals. So what should we do, right? Well, what we should do is follow a bottom-up approach, not a top-down. And this means you start with an individual company, you assess it on its merits. Is this a great business? Does it have a durable competitive advantage? Is it run by people we trust? And most importantly, is it selling at a price that gives me a margin of safety? And if you get those things right, the macro is just background noise. It's going to be short-term issues, whatever it is. And that's exactly what we're looking to block out in order to be rational long-term investors. Now, another mistake that people are going to make going into this year is confusing speculation with investing, particularly when it comes to assets with no intrinsic value. Like we're seeing enormous enthusiasms around gold and crypto. And to be clear, I'm not saying you shouldn't own them. I think there is a place in the portfolio, particularly for gold. But what matters is understanding what you're actually doing. That's the critical thing. An investment, in the sense that we use it, in the sense that Warren Buffett says it, has what we call intrinsic value. And that intrinsic value, it means it's got value of its own right, not depending on somebody else on the outside. It comes from the probability of future cash flow. So money that in a business gets generated by the business and it gets distributed to the owners over time, or it's used to continue to grow the business. In other words, it's something inside the business that it can grow that business without any outside help at all. And we can value the business based on that. You can be wrong sometimes, sure, but at least there's a structure and a framework. Assets like crypto and gold, they don't produce cash flow. They don't generate earnings. They don't reinvest capital at high rates of return. Their price, and I'm saying price, not value, because I don't know what the value is, depends almost entirely on what someone else is willing to pay for them in the future. And that doesn't necessarily make them worthless, but it does make them speculative and perhaps useful as a hedge. So let me be clear. The danger we're seeing today isn't that investors are choosing some speculative asset. It's that people nowadays are putting their entire net worth into speculative assets where there's no way to reasonably estimate what that might be worth in 5 or 10 years. At one point, you're just not investing at all. You're just hoping and praying that the sentiment stays positive or the entire economy fails, so gold will be worth something. Hoping that liquidity remains abundant if you're getting into Bitcoin, and crossing your fingers that somebody else is going to pay more later. This is the greater fool theory in action. And what that means is you need someone who's a greater fool than you to buy it from you at a higher price than you were willing to pay. Now, when you buy a piece of a great business, there's a whole different thing going on there. You don't need any greater fool to sell if you want to sell. You don't even need to sell. It can generate cash flow that you can put in your pocket. The value of a great business goes up over time because over time, it creates more cash flow. More cash flow, higher value. No fools required. It's just straight up. Just buy the house across the street at a super good price and rent it out. And this is all we're talking about. Every investment you make should be along those lines where you don't care if anybody ever comes along and buys it from you because you're making 10% the first year and you're making 20% 5 years later. Now, the mistake that a lot of people make from here, and another big trap investors have fallen into, is they confuse a compelling narrative with the actual business performance. I guess what I mean by that is they get caught up in the story. Right now, markets are jam-packed full of really, really awesome stories about artificial intelligence, agentic AI, reshoring, defense spending, energy transitions. Each of these things sounds really like a certain kind of inevitability to it because how much it gets talked about in the media. Robots are going to be in our homes next year. They're not. You get the idea. The story is out there. If it's not next year, it's going to be soon. And that's what makes these ideas dangerous. A strong narrative doesn't guarantee a great business. For a business to be a really great long-term investment, it needs to be more than just some sort of secular industry tailwind with a great story. It needs a durable competitive advantage, something that protects it from the competition out there that wants to jump in there and grab those high margins. It needs the ability to generate sustained, magic words here, free cash flow. Earnings, earnings are a little bit of a fiction, but cash is cash. So we don't just want revenue growth, we want free cash flow, and it needs to do that at a price that allows us to earn a good return. And in a speculative environment, these stories tend to do the heavy lifting. They just get where the investors just falsely assume, they get caught up in it, right? A little bit of confirmation bias that the growth is going to last forever. Margins are going to stay high. Competitors won't catch up. I'm guilty of this myself, you guys. It's so hard to separate the story from reality. It takes work. You need to understand the business. And the real killer here for most people is they assume valuation doesn't matter. This time it's different. In 2026, many of these stories are already priced for perfection. And in an environment like that, it means that even good outcomes can give you really poor returns because you paid too much. We've seen this a few times with NVIDIA's earning results. Despite posting incredible numbers, the share price falls. Why? People are expecting so much out of the story. And in this environment, if a business grows a little bit slower, or the margins compress a little bit, or capital requirements, CapEx turns out to be higher, it's common to see the stock price just plummet. And that's the problem with the story. As soon as somebody pokes a hole in the story, man, people bail out. And there's nothing underneath it to support that narrative. The cash flow isn't there yet. So Buffett's really warned about this a lot. He wrote a Fortune article at the height of the tech bubble, warning people not to invest in industries simply because they're exciting. You invest in businesses with wide moats that are simple and predictable, with good management teams that allocate capital well. And in 2026, we got to look into that. We got to find those things. I got to tell you, it's hard to do right now because the market is so expensive. So right now, you want to be just putting companies on the list that you know are great, and don't worry about the price. At some point, the price is going to come to us. Now let's go on to our fourth big mistake. This is for extrapolating the last few great years into the future forever. This is one of the most subtle and dangerous mistakes investors are making, is assuming the recent historical returns are normal. The last few years have conditioned investors in a number of industries to expect really extraordinary outcomes, like AI growth is accelerating endlessly. Corporate profit margins are very near record highs, and valuations are staying really elevated because the capital keeps flowing in. Where else are you going to put it right now? We're in a kind of a K-shaped economy with one leg, if you own assets, it's going straight up, and the other leg, if you don't, it's going straight down. The problem is markets don't work that way forever. They go through cycles, absolutely fluctuate, and the truth is when returns have been unusually strong, it often means that tomorrow's returns are going to be pulled down by today's very high valuations. It means that tomorrow's returns are effectively being spent early because the prices are so high. And when expectations are that extreme, reality doesn't need to be bad to cause a big disappointment in the market. It just needs to be less perfect. This is especially relevant heading into 2026 here. Markets are really priced for a lot of good news. That doesn't mean stocks will crash, right? They may not. And it does mean that the margin of error is very small. There have been some great research on this. Whenever stocks are priced where they are right now, around that 40 Shiller PE, the following 20 years can be very disappointing. So Buffett has already warned investors about this type of thinking. He frequently reminds us, long-term averages exist for a reason. Periods of exceptional returns are often followed by periods of lower or flat returns. We've seen this happen historically over and over again in my 40-year career, and it's going to happen again. Absolutely, it will. And the unfortunate thing is that the investors who just assume that it won't, that recent performance is just going to continue indefinitely, including their stock prices, are the ones most likely to panic and make emotional decisions when things start to normalize. Okay, and the last investing mistake I'm seeing a lot now. Talked to a lot of people in 2026 now at the beginning of the year. It's really simple yet powerful, and that is people forgetting the most important rule of investing. Rule number 1 is don't lose money. And rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Now, I know that might sound obvious, but let me tell you guys, in my experience, most underperformance comes from ignoring that one little rule. As we spoke about in today's market, many investors are chasing returns. They're buying businesses. The prices are really inflated because they're afraid of missing out. FOMO is really wildly powerful out there, and they're stretching assumptions. Look at the razor-thin margins of safety that are existing out there at a Shiller PE of 40, or none at all, really. But the truth is, avoiding losers is far more important than rushing out there to find winners. It is better to accept low rates of return right now than to bet on another banner year for the S&P 500 of prices just continuing to blow out the roof. If you overpay for a business, even a great one, you really can destroy years of investing returns. And in a long-term investing game, the one that we play, this really matters. Valuation's super important. In my experience, waiting patiently for that fat pitch, that wonderful business, attractive price, that's just crucial. Just accept the mediocre returns for right now and be ready, because when things shift, man, that is when you can start creating generational wealth. So let's take a look at what Berkshire is doing right now. It's not aggressively buying stocks, right? It's accumulating cash. And this cash gives them flexibility when inevitably it's going to start raining gold. And this is how Buffett made his billions. And I'm sure it's how he expects Greg Abel to invest right now, who's running it. And it's how Manesh Prabhai made his millions, Guy Spear made his millions, how Seth Klarman made his millions, and it's how I made my millions. And it's keeping me wealthy. And I want to help you guys with that. So that said, if Warren Buffett style investing approach is something that you really think maybe you should know more about, particularly right now, I'd love to invite you to our next 3-day Rule 1 investing workshop. We teach entirely online. We go through the full 4-pillared investing approach that my mentor taught me. He learned from Warren Buffett. We've now taught this strategy to over 25,000 people all around the world. And we're not like those workshops, the ones where they just try to upsell you all weekend. They never teach you anything. Just sell, sell, sell. We don't do any of that. We just teach, no selling, zero. And the stats don't lie. People love this workshop so much that our net promoter scores are better than Harvard and Yale. So if you'd like to get serious and really take charge of your financial future, come on, you guys, come and join us at the next event. The details can be found down below in the description, in the pinned comment, and also by scanning the QR code on the screen. But with that said, I really appreciate you guys listening to this. I hope we get a chance to meet you in the coming days. And thanks. Time to go play. See ya.